Welcome back to Shape of the City. I'm Clover Frederick, your host. It can already be a challenge to keep kids active, but then add the fact that it's utterly freezing outside. What is there to be done? We've brought in a couple of pros today to discuss ways to keep active and healthy during the long Nebraska winter. Joining me is Matt Avey, the curriculum specialist at Lincoln Public Schools Physical Education Department, and Michelle Kiddoo, the health and wellness director for the Northeast YMCA. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
All right, let's start with Matt. Tell me about physical education in school and what it looks like today and how it's changed.
Sure. Physical education in school is you're going to see a lot of some of the similar things that maybe you saw when you were a student in physical education. But as you know, with kids, you're going to see some changes in the sense that we're trying to get kids, because we know that there are limitations in how often we can program kids in PE. We're trying to infuse some of these brain breaks or physical activity sessions in the classroom too, because we know that research is suggesting that kids tend to perform better the more physically active they are. The engagement goes up in the classroom as well. But in addition, we've got some new national standards that are really focused a lot on moderate to vigorous physical activity in physical education. Obviously, we're assessing skills and those kind of things, and the technology has kind of helped us out in that area. But generally speaking, the new national standards call for all students to be moderate to vigorously physically active in a physical education setting at least 50% of the instructional time. So if they have a 52-minute class, we're asking for at minimum 26 minutes of that to be engaged in moderate to vigorous physical activity. Because of that, we know that transitions we want to keep the education component, but at the same time we realize that time is of the essence, especially with an elementary kid, which a PE teacher might only get to see once every 4 or 5 days. We'd like to reduce that, but we know that we want to maximize the efficiency and be efficient with the time that we do have with those kids.
Great. Now, what challenges do the schools face in the winter time?
Well, obviously you expand. I mean, in physical education, the beauty is during most of the year, you have 2 classrooms. You've got an outdoor, essentially you have 3 classrooms if you've got field space and then playground space as well as gym space. But as winter creeps in on our folks, the programming becomes a little more challenging in that we don't have the space that we typically tended to in the fall months or in the late spring months. So again, you're trying to facilitate, and even though the gym is the primary classroom for the physical educator, it's also serving a purpose in certain buildings in addition to physical education. So just programming, you got to be strategic about what you're doing, when you're doing it, planning ahead, those kind of things. And then realizing too that if you're in a building that is tight on space to begin with and has a lot of students, that you're going to need to get creative with what space you utilize in order to teach students in a physical activity setting.
Now, why is it important to keep kids active all year long? Well,
fitness is a fluid thing, and if we want our students to be fit, we know that it's not just a part of the time thing or a couple months of the year and then we break for summer and then we'll see you again in the fall and we'll try and work on it again. We know that as you maintain fitness levels and wellness within a child, it can benefit them in the long term, and we're trying to kind of set the tone for what's to come, especially in the secondary years, so that when they are out of school, that they're doing that type of work on their own and for the benefit of themselves. We want them to advocate for their own health when they leave, and that's not a part of the day thing or a part of the year thing. That's an every day of the year thing.
Now, what tips do you have for parents that would keep kids active both inside and outside?
Well, I think the difference between a home setting or a school setting is, when we're in a school setting, we get kids out quite a bit. I think, today, if it wouldn't have been so sloppy, I think you would see kids out in this type of a temperature on the playground during recess time, simply because if they're layered up, we know that it's healthy and it's beneficial for them to be outside. But if it's just too cold, some tips include, I know you're going to talk a little bit about screen time, but sometimes we can utilize technology to our benefit if it's actually promoting physical activity. There's certain applications out there that actually will limit screen time and give kids a brain break in between their little game that they might be playing on the computer or what have you, that parents can utilize to get their kids engaged in some physical activity indoors. But in addition, I would say just use good judgment, but the typical layer up, get them out there, and join in. I think that's another piece. Rather than just push them out the door and say, I'll be warm and toasty inside, but go outside and play with your kids. So
that actually leads me right into my next question about how important it is for parents to be role models to their kids in this activity. What can parents do? That's
a great question, and it is important. But engage your kids in play. I think a lot of times, the less we see kids engaged in play, the less maybe they know how to do it. It is something that we could even teach or model in that particular case. So rather than just say, hey, here, do this, or here, plop down in front of this screen and I'll be doing other things, engage your kids by participating with them. That's one tip, and it is critical for parents to provide that role model in physical activity for their kids.
Very good. Now let's switch gears and talk to Michelle for a little bit. What is the winter like at the YMCA?
Well, as we all know, we have New Year's resolution people, so it does get a little bit busier, but most of our facilities are fairly big and can handle a wide, vast majority of the people, and we love when families come to our facilities because there are things for them to do together, but there's also lots of areas at the Ys to kind of find your niche and find your strengths, whether it be the kids who are doing swim lessons, or if it's the family doing family gym, or but lots of different options. And so we like when families do it together. But
well, you mentioned a few activities. What are some of the other activities that families can do at the Y?
Well, kind of your typical in the facility programs that we have, swim lessons, we have dance lessons, we have gymnastics and tumbling, homeschool gym. Also, out of the facility, there's youth sports, there's Camp Kataki, which they have like a New Year's Eve live, so when it's cold and the kids are on school break and they're getting bored, that's a great opportunity for them to get outside. They do all kinds of fun activities outside, and like Matt said, they bundle up, and there's Kids Quest that they can do. There's kids night outs when the kids can tell their parents to go somewhere else because they want to hang out at the Y. Family gyms, and where the parents can hang out with their kids at the same time, playing in the gym, just playing and keeping it fun. And we also have martial arts programs, and lots of families interact together and take those lessons. And then our pools are extremely utilized. We have several pools have water slides, and our zero entry, which makes it very comfortable for all ages of the family.
Now, with all of these options available, what tips do you have for parents for choosing trying to find an activity that's right for their child?
Make sure it's the child's choice, and that, like I said, above all, just make sure they understand that it's fun, and that the focus is on the child themselves, because we have so many different programs. Hopefully, each child in a family can find different activities to do. Maybe one is older and has finished swim lessons and they want to do swim team. So we have winter and summer swim teams, but they may have a sibling who maybe isn't quite ready for that and just wants to do rec swim. So just making sure that it's the child's choice and that it's fun for them.
Okay, good. Now, I know that we're going to have some really cold days coming up, and we just will not want to leave the house with our kids. What suggestions do you have for keeping kids active when we're at home?
When you're at home, well, I would say try to get out of the house and come to the Y. We have a little bit bigger area for kids to run around in. You know, we have fun days during the LPS non-school days, so those are kind of fun activities, and you don't just have to be a parent that works outside of the home for your kids to come. But to do in the house, you know, like Matt said, using technology, there's a lot out there that you can utilize for activities. You know, having jump ropes, just having kind of available equipment, jump ropes and balls, and you know, if you have a basement, clear the furniture and just have fun with it. You know, if parents have the big flex balls that they use for exercise, the kids can roll around on those, and bring some of the things that they've learned maybe in gymnastics or dance, turn on music. That's a great motivator to have a good time. And everybody has, you know, the little apps, music apps that you can pull up kids' music and do the Macarena or do the chicken dance, or any kind of movement is movement and exercise. So just don't sit in front of the TV would be my suggestion. Yeah.
Very good. Now, just for fun, tell us, Matt, what is your personal favorite thing to do for activity during the winter?
Well, I enjoy going to the Y, actually, and I was talking to my wife last night, and I was talking about winter time versus summertime, and she made the suggestion, I think she's right, is that I'm probably more active in the winter because I go to the Y as opposed to getting my workout or my run in just on the streets. You know, I might get a 35, 40-minute run in on the bike trail in the summer, but that might be it. Whereas if I go to the Y, I might do 25, 30 minutes on the treadmill, and then that's typically not enough. And if you're there already and there's all these other things to engage in, I might go for a 20-minute swim. I might, you know, finally lift some weights, which I probably need to do a little bit more of. But those are the things that are beneficial about getting to a facility that is built for bad weather. And so, yeah, that's typically, I think I probably increase my activity load in the winter months in terms of my workouts, for sure, just because it's there and it's readily available. Now, having said that, I much prefer to go run on the trail out in the nice weather as opposed to indoors. But if it gets me more active in other areas, that's all the better.
Great. What about you, Michelle?
Well, I have a dog, so she likes to be walked. So it's kind of peaceful in the wintertime to be bundle up and be out walking. But, you know, honestly, I really enjoy hanging out at the Y too. Like Matt said, they've got some great classes. I live closer to the Fallbrook Y, so I'll go there on the weekends, but some great classes that adults can be a part of. So it does kind of gives you something else to do. Or you might be on the treadmill for 20 minutes and a class starts, so you're in a class for an hour. You know, and there's some family classes that we do for the kids and their families too, some Zumba classes and things like that. But yeah, I honestly, I mean, it's home away from home for me, but you know, all of our facilities are kind of like family. Once you find that niche and try to get connected to people, and we try to connect with them, it's a great place to be for families because you feel like you're part of the family. So that's what we try to do.
Great. Well, thank you both for coming on the show and sharing your suggestions with us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.